What's a really awkward situation that everyone can relate with? Picking up on everyone being disinterested in what you're saying, and you're totally bungling the story the longer it goes on as their disinterest rises, and you're desperately trying to keep the narrative ball in the air and you know it's all falling apart, but your dumb fic mouth just keeps talking as your dying screams at you to shut the fic up. Ever drag your shoe across a tile floor and have it make a loud, wet, fart sound so everyone in the room looks at you? Then you insist it was your shoe and try to make the sound again, but nothing happens? Yeah, that. Someone trying to initiate a handshake after you've just washed your hands. It's either a few awkward seconds of quickly drying your hands on your jeans or shaking their hand anyway and seeing the discomfort in their eyes. Watching a totally normal movie sitting alone, and a split second before your parents walk in they start. The worst part is deciding whether to jump for the remote or play it cool. Hint, never play it cool. Like Scrodinger's cat, it decided to become a NC-17 movie the minute you made that decision. Not long ago at church we were asked to turn and greet people. I turned around and the guy said hi to me and stuck his hand out to shake. I went for it and realized he was talking to the woman beside me. She and I both ended up with a hand in his hand at the same time trying to shake it. They both looked at me and I quickly turned around and pretended it didn't happen, which made it more awkward. And then rest of the service I couldn't stop laughing about it. This is standard for me. Wanted the Smash Mouth CD with All Star on it when I was a kid. My aunt wound up getting me the Len CD with Steal My Sunshine on it. Apparently I hadn't heard the song yet back then, even though it was all over the radio. My disappointment was immeasurable and my day was ruined. I faked a half smile. Decades later I love Steal My Sunshine and I should have been happy. I give tours in a cavern and sprinkle puns and jokes in with the information. Normally, great reactions. This tour, not a single laugh. I think one person may have cracked a smile point, but the rest were just staring at me. I actually said, come on, just give me a laugh every now and then, or this is gonna be awkward, as that usually breaks the ice or whatever and fixes the problem. One person snickered. The rest stared. It was a 70-minute tour, all 70 minutes of nearly zero laughter. Also, when you realize you've forgotten something and need to turn around, but you don't want to just turn around abruptly because that would make you look insane. So you do a little performance where you get your phone out, pretend to check a message, sort of mime back quote aha, and then turn around. Or cross the street and then turn around to throw any observers off the scent. When you're having a conversation with someone and you don't hear what they say, so you ask them to repeat and they do. But you still don't hear it and ask them to repeat again and they do, and you still don't know what they said. Do you ask them to repeat again and maybe still not hear it? Pretend you heard it and nod your head and hope it's an appropriate response? Stab yourself in the eye with a pen to create a diversion and change the subject? I work in an office above a warehouse and the hallway goes the length of the entire warehouse. It's like that never-ending hotel hallway in The Shining. There are departments all along the hallway, so people come out of doors from each end. It's the worst to start walking from one end and someone comes out from a door at the other, and I'm just praying inside they enter into another door before we get to each other. But it never happens. We always end up crossing paths, but until that point, I'm looking everywhere but at that person. Looking into other offices, pulling my phone out for no reason. To look at it. The only savior is when you have a box or paperwork in your hands that you can focus on, and then when the other person is within 5 feet of you, say hey and keep walking. It's utter misery every time I have to go into the hallway, which is a lot. Dude, yesterday in the grocery store I accidentally swallowed my own spit wrong. Just so random, out of nowhere, choking, and then of course coughing. Like, a shit ton of coughing. My boyfriend was freaking out on me that everyone was gonna be mad at us / make us leave. Nothing happened, but I've never felt like such a criminal before. I made sure to say I just choked on my own spit realty loud, which also didn't make me feel great. I was with my brother once and we saw a guy wearing a work coat that had his name on it. My brother, being a prankster, sees the name, Bob, or whatever it was, and says, "Hey, Bob. How have you been?" The guy was of course embarrassed because he didn't know my brother and apparently didn't realize his name was on his jacket. This reminds me of the time, after seeing a late night showing at a theater, think it was back They Shall Not Grow Old, dinner hadn't sat well with me at all, and I had to make a run for the bathroom. It looked completely empty, so, as soon as I locked the stall door and sat down, I let it rip. It was the loudest shit I ever took in my life. It echoed through the stall's point. After a brief moment of silence, all I heard was an old man in the stall next to me mutter back Jesus Christ, before flushing and quickly departing. Part of me felt extremely embarrassed, another part of me thought that was the funniest shit in the world, and I had to keep myself from giggling until he left. My family was wondering what was so funny as we were leaving the theater, and absolutely lost it when I told them what happened. Good times. When you're walking behind someone that has a slightly slower pace than you, so you start to pass them, but then have that awkward moment when you're walking next to them before you cut in front of them. I'm a server. If it makes you feel any better, I've said have a nice day guys instead of enjoy your meal more often than I'd like to admit. I think it comes from me trying to not use the same phrase for every table. I hate the idea of saying something to one table then them overhearing me say the same thing, word for word to the table next to them. Basically I'm trying to make the service a little more personal, but it occasionally makes me do dumb shit like that. When the person says back no, when you ask them out. Edit. Thanks everyone for the responses. My response really just meant it's awkward, because either you and or the other person might feel awkward when it happens. Things can obviously be fine after. Just right when it happens it can be odd. Even worse when they try to back let you down easy by saying, oh I don't know. I might have plans that day, and part of your brain is convinced they're actually interested, but the cynical part knows better. So you just stand there, a war raging in your head, while they stare at you, looking for their exit. I have a funny story about this. I'm a house cleaner, and went to this nice lady's house for a first time clean. She has this big friendly dog, and he was so cute. My partner and I start cleaning, and this dog walks up to me and starts humping me while nearly knocking me over. I try to nicely get the dog off, but every time I turn my back on him, he starts humping me again. I felt so bad yelling at this dog in a stranger's house. I had to have my partner keep watching my back for me because he wouldn't leave me alone. Once, after really only spending time with my boyfriend, I went to the grocery store with my sister. She reached down for a chocolate bar, and out of instinct I tapped her butt. Realized my mistake after the motion had started, but before contact. Too late though. So I then whopped her a few more times around her thigh/back area while looking around like I had no idea this interaction was taking place. Edit. Thank you for the award, kind stranger, my very first. This one goes out to the girls who didn't have a lot of powerful uplifting women in their lives, but the first time a girl has to buy pads/tampons, it's really awkward, like you're letting the whole world know your baby maker is working. I know when I was 10. And I had to do this. I was so terrified/weirded out, I thought everyone was watching me. OMG, one time in high school I went to the pharmacy near me, grabbed an armful of tampons, walked towards the checkout line, and quickly realized the cashier was one of my best friend's brother. But he had seen me, and it was too late to turn back. So I had to go through with it, and bought tampons from my friend's brother. It was so uncomfortable. Needless to say, I used a different pharmacy for the rest of high school. As a teen it's very awkward when relatives ask what games I've been playing recently. Even when I do tell them, they obviously don't know what it is, so they'll either just bob their head or ask me about it. It's good that they're trying to show interest in something I like to do, but it feels there are always much better questions to be had. When you're in public and start to choke on something, but not a lot, so you can breathe a little bit, but you don't want to keep coughing too loud and get attention. So you roughly inhale through a piece of muffin in your throat with your face turning red and your eyes and nose dripping like you're a wreck. But really you just didn't ingest the muffin properly, so now you're embarrassed about choking on it and embarrassed about being embarrassed to choke on it and not coughing to begin with and instead choking slightly for 5 minutes. Happened to me at work yesterday. Most of the awkward situations come from thinking what people may think of you, but when you realize that people don't really think of that much, the awkwardness just fades away. It's not that you aren't worthy being think of, it's just people think of you as much as you think of them, which is not much. Task my fiancée dad if I could marry her with the TV going in the background and a graphic 6 scene started playing during our discussion. I didn't want to make it weird by shutting off the TV before asking, but I also didn't anticipate what ultimately showed up on the screen. We both went along like we didn't notice, but deep down we did. Life always finds a way to throw you curveballs. Telling a story to a bunch of people that in your head sounds hilarious, but halfway through you realize it's not funny at all and everyone is just staring at you. Even worse if someone lets out a forced sympathy laugh. Thanks for watching this video. If you already subscribed, thank you very much. Public daily new videos, you can check previous videos.